Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. I'm super excited for this episode. I got another music person on this on this show today. And what he is he's a music producer, with Productions. And he helps emerging artists express themselves in a professional way. Very excited to be rocking out today with Mike Oz. Hey, Mike, are you ready to rock?
You bet.
Perfect. Right on. We always start off on a good note here. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
So I think one of the most recent ones was the way that I saw my artists tackle COVID. So it was a time when you couldn't do much as an artist. You couldn't go play. So if you were supporting yourself with gigs, which a lot of people out here in New Brunswick definitely do, it was kind of a tragic time, right? And so unless you kind of shifted and moved over to the internet on some form of subscription or payment basis, you're kind of screwed.
Yep.
So I have about 10 artists usually on rotation here. And so, I talked to all of them and I said, this is a time for you guys to really bunker down and be able to work on your portfolio, work on your electronic press kit. Let's get some videos done. Let's finish the songs you weren't ready to finish. Let's work on your vocals. So when it opens up again, you're going to hit the ground running. Right. And the proof in the pudding is that that's exactly what's happened. So you've got some artists that I run, like Sam Hudson. They just, now he's blooming, right? Because he worked really hard during COVID, which is tough. This was tough. This was a moment where you didn't see the end of the tunnel, So, that's really tough on an artist to not be able to go play, to not even have an audience. After 2 years, you forget your audience, right?
Yeah.
So I think the success was really seeing the resilience that they put into their careers. Music New Brunswick really helped in this because they offered up some great grants that most of my artists got, and which, I'm from Toronto. So hearing that a few or even one of your artists got a grant is a big thing, because in Toronto, it's very rare that you actually see that money, right? So out here, Music New Brunswick, kudos to them. Really well done. They helped my artists get a leg up, get some videos done. And that's been one of the best success stories around here for me, that's for sure.
Right on. Oh man, it's so cool. I'm so excited for this episode because I talk about the business side all the time, and very like I bring a little bit of my music side in every once in a while and what I do on that, but it doesn't come in very often. So I think it's going to come in quite a few times in this episode because Sam actually has been out to my jam nights several times. And so I think it's funny that the way that we probably work together without knowing that we work together is that you provide the sort of structure, the working on their songs, all that stuff. And then what he does is he comes out to my jam nights and to my open mics, and he goes and he performs them and gets some experience performing them live.
And, you offer an amazing gift for people because, to be an artist, you can be in the studio and that can be fun or it can be disheartening for some, but it's going out and playing and cutting your teeth. If you can't do that, you're also not going to be great in the studio, because you need to be out there with, like I used to always say, when you go to a jam night, that is like 3 to 4 times the equivalent of a rehearsal that you do in private.
Yep.
Because your nerves are up. And you got to fight against speeding up your songs because your nerves and the inhibition can also cut in on your talent. So all these things, the more you do it, the more you become disinhibited and become freer with your expression, looser, and actually tighter with your timing, right? That's great.
Yeah. No, absolutely, for sure. And it is a bit of an addiction too. I know that once, so many times that I'd go and I'd really have to just pull someone up on the stage and be like, listen, I know what you could do. Come on, let's just try it out. Let's just get it going. And then once they get on that stage and they come back off again, they want to go back up again immediately. It's one of those things where it's difficult to get someone out there. And I, even in regular business, what I always recommend anybody is go to a karaoke night and sing a karaoke song. Doesn't matter if you're a terrible singer, you will get some nerves out and it will help you in your public
Sure.
speaking.
100%. 100%. So yeah, like for example, and he's not the only one. I mean, I've got all the artists that I've been working with just have, you know, been able to hone their craft over COVID, and it's just great to see them now starting to bloom, do all their, you know, this has been the first summer that people have been able to get out and do real shows again.
Yeah.
Almost made me forget COVID even happened.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So now, with those good notes, there are some bad notes as well. I mean, we all hit them, right? And
Yep.
I'm wondering, can you share with me something that just didn't go as planned and how you
Sure.
recovered from it?
Yeah. So when I first moved here, so I'm from Toronto, but when I first moved here with my whole studio, clearly I was used to a Toronto client base. And while my wife, who's from here, she's from Rogerville, she you know, she kind of let me know what the mood is out here. And but when I first had the first band that I recorded here, when you're mixing, when you do a big outboard analog mix, that can take like 4 or 5 hours. And I had this band here, and I said to them, I said, listen, I'm going to turn around about every hour, and I'm going to ask you, what do you think about the mix? And this is your cue to tell me, okay, well, I think the guitar is a little too loud, or the vocal needs a bit of this, or whatever it is, right? And then as we get closer, you know, in the 4 hour mark, you know, we're gonna have honed in on the mix. Then we got final touches, right? So I thought they understood this, and they just kept saying, "Oh yeah, perfect." I'd turn around, they'd be like, "It's great, it's great." And you know, after 4 hours, I was like, "Man, okay, I like it. They like it. Great." So I sent it home with them, and lo and behold, 7 o'clock in the morning, I get an email that is a biblical verses, you know what I'm saying, of changes that needed to be made. I mean, all those changes need to be made in the mix while you're here with me, right? But so it's my fault. I tried to impart how to listen to your mix, but I needed to be quite more specific, right? So now I teach people how to listen to their mix critically while they are here to save us all a lot of time and money. So now I don't make that mistake anymore. But you know what we ended up with back then as the failure, it's never a failure, it's music. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong, right?
Yeah.
So it's but it was that we ended up with a mix that was a Frankenstein, you know, by the time, because we ended up with, like, it was mix 15 by the time we were done, you know. So no one was happy. And because we had just lost touch of the trace, you know. So the big lesson learned there. But it's all good, you know. Again, like in music, it's all a learning experience. That's why I love it so much, because I love learning, I love knowledge.
Yeah,
And
me
I
too.
love imparting knowledge, you know. So yeah, that's kind of the only real failure. I mean, my other one would have been to try and go back into hip hop. Yeah, that was like, you know, I did a lot of hip hop work when I was in Toronto, and you know, paid handsomely for it. But you know, out here, I chose a different mentality for myself. That's why I moved out of the big city. I'm not going to say that I wanted a more wholesome experience in my life, but I did, you know, and I found it out here, you know, for sure. Compared to big city living, you know, out here, almost nobody comes at me with an angle. There's just, you know, everyone's relaxed. Everyone out here as a musician, I don't have to fight against these egos of people that want to be famous yesterday, right? Everyone's out here mostly to have fun. So when I'm on take 3, take 4, I got it. In
Yeah.
Toronto, you're like, take 12, take 14. It's okay, I already had it at take 4, but the client doesn't believe you because, you know, they had to be the best. And it's like, you don't get it. You got to be relaxed and having fun, and suddenly you're playing better. In fact,
Yeah.
you're playing your best when you're most at peace, right? So out here, I definitely found that, and I've been, you know, I've been blessed.
Right on. And you know what, that's something that can translate a lot to most businesses as well, because and especially like you said here, you know, everybody's kind of giving you the thumbs up. Yeah, it sounds good. People are depending on where you are, and I think Toronto would have a different mentality, but around here especially, people are, they don't want to tell you that it doesn't sound good. They want to give you the thumbs up. They don't really want to give you their real feedback, right? And I think one of the things you probably learned is that you have to really be specific about what it is that you are asking them. Because if you're like, hey, does it sound good? They're all going to say, sounds good, right?
Absolutely.
And then afterwards, they'll figure out that it didn't sound good, right?
Yes, when you're not there watching them, right? So now what I do is I really explain that, but I also don't do the 4 or 5 hour sessions, mix sessions anymore. Now I do my mix, then I invite the artist to come in for the last hour of checking, where he gets the opportunity, she get the opportunity to listen to the mix and give me some suggestions, and then I offer them the opportunity to please go home and send me 1 page of notes.
Right.
That's it, right? And then and now, and ever since then, ever since I corrected that, it's been a breeze, right? Everyone gets it.
Right on. So let's talk a little bit about practicing and getting good at what you do. And you know, in music, it's it's very simple to make that comparison. In business, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. But what is it that you do to, you know, stay on top of your game?
Yeah. So first of all, if you run a studio, you should know all the manuals. And I know that in this day and age of YouTube, people don't do that. People are like, oh, I'll just go YouTube it when I need it. Oh yeah? Well, when you're working with a client, you don't have that liberty, okay? And when you're thinking on your feet, you're gonna go look at YouTube every 5 minutes to go figure out your mix. You're gonna be lost. You need to go study when the client isn't there. That's called being professional. It's what you have integrity to do when they're not looking. Right? So I study, and I've been at this for 30 years. I study every day, an hour, 2 hours, sometimes more, right? I'll go watch people that have been in the business longer than me, how they're still doing their mixes, new plugins, all the manuals for those plugins. I mean, you got to stay on top of your game, right? Now there's immersive audio, right? So I don't know, am I going to fill my studio with speakers? Right now I can do it in headphones, but some people don't even know what immersive audio is. And it's like, that's up and coming. So, you know, I mean, it's here already, but it's the future. So just being, you know, staying on top of your game, that's, you know, and doing the hard work of learning your plugins, learning your hardware works. And I mean, your plugins were created to be based around the hardware. So if you don't know how hardware works and you're just working out of plugins, guess what? You should be studying the hardware anyways, because that's what it was, the plugins were created from, you know, to spec. So all these people I see working with red lines or close to the red and stuff like that, that's just crazy. You need to be working on such low levels, like minus 18 dB. But if you don't know these things and you don't read the manuals, how are you going to know? Right?
Yeah.
So the other thing that I try to do is to stay on top of my game is I also try and keep the artist knowledgeable. So while I'm working, I teach them what I'm doing. I show them what I'm doing, so that when they go into a bigger studio, another place, whatever it is, guess what? They're going to know what they're talking about, and they're going to, you know, they're going to look good instead of looking like schmucks.
Yeah, exactly. And what you said there, so I find that when you're even in a performance, things are going to go weird. Like, and I mean, this can work as a salesperson when you're doing your sales presentation. Like, you can't possibly prepare for every possible scenario that's going to happen, because something's going to get thrown at you that you're not going to get. Oh, yeah. But from what I'm understanding, what you're saying, you're doing as much preparation as possible so that you're at least confident going into it. So if they're going to throw something at you that you've never seen before, you have enough base to be able to go, no, okay, I think I know how I'm going to solve this on the fly, right?
Absolutely. And then learn from every experience. So for example, from every mix I do, something new has been put into that mix. I'm not just cookie cutting anything here. So when I do that, I will save those presets as for future use, right? So, you know, a classic one that some people should have always in their repertoire is the telephone effect, that everybody wants on some part of their mix here and there, right? Oh, okay. Well, that should be one button press away for you. And stuff like that. So preparing yourself with saved presets, stuff where you can immediately go and in this little box of tools, right? Of audio tools, and be able to pull them out when, because you're always being creative. The client in the middle of a mix, if you think it's all said and done, no, the client's always going to change his mind, right?
Yeah.
So, because I'm an artist too, that's what I do. I got some songs that are 10 years old, still haven't finished being mixed. They're still in the mix, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I know, so I know how people are, and so that's why it's good to have different things on the ready, so that when people's ideas are creative, you're not there taking 10, 15 minutes to figure out how to do that. By the time that's done, the creativity moment is gone. Right?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Anik Malenfant from Mastering Ascension, and I've been working with Tim Melanson and the Creative Crew Agency for a number of years now. Tim is my go-to guy for all things technology, and his team have helped me to really create the platform that I need that represents my brand, my message, and connects me directly to my ideal clients. What I particularly love about Tim is before he starts to dive into the technology, he always makes sure that he understands what your global view is, what your ultimate goals are. So then that way you're not wasting a lot of time back and forth switching around technology or platforms. He creates something from the get-go that is scalable, which is highly beneficial for any business. What I've experienced from Tim and his team is they're highly responsive. They are a wealth of information, and they're going to offer you the tools that you need to really make the mark that you want to make in the world. So that's my recommendation for Tim. He's awesome. You're going to love every minute. You won't regret it.
So let's talk a little bit about getting fans. What's your approach to attracting business?
Yeah. Back to that word, integrity, right? So I was fortunate to move out here and where there's a ton of musicians. I mean, per capita, there must be 1 in 5 people out here is a good musician. That's a lot, eh? Like in Toronto, the numbers just aren't there. And counterintuitively, in Toronto, there's 1,000 studios. I don't know how many have survived from COVID, but there's a lot of studios. Out here, it's not so many. So when I moved out here, I put a couple of Kijiji ads, but really the night that solidified it for me, and I do thank Julie Ann O'Connor, one of my artists, and great person, and she helped me because she invited me to J Country, Jason Cormier's night at that he organized at in fact I should thank him too, that he organized at the Dark Club. And I went and I watched all the bands and ended up producing most of them. And by word of mouth, the rest is history, because I've never put out another ad and I've never paid for any ads out here. So if you want, I haven't really done any marketing for the studio, as of yet. My first one is being on the show, right, out here. And so I've just been really blessed that I guess because I do good work and the way that I treat people and the way that that kind of thing, all that revolves around integrity in my mind, if you had to sum it up. And so all that has just kept my business going by word of mouth. I don't have a list at the door waiting to get in, but I've never missed out on any work or needed any work. It's always been pretty full without having to do much. So that's one of my pieces of advice. If apart from your marketing, you can market yourself as much as you want, but especially out here where New Brunswick's like a big village. My wife taught me that. Mm-hmm. But out here, word of mouth, it's everything. It's everything. In Toronto, it's so big. But out here, if you're a dick, that's going to get around. If you're unprofessional and your work sucks, guess what? That's going to get out too. Absolutely. And so that kind of integrity is, again, it's done when people aren't even looking. and just to be prepared and all that stuff, treat people the right way, treat people like the way you want to be treated. And that goes far. That goes
Right
real far.
on.
Now, the other thing about marketing, though, is in my business is I help and I try to help my artists market themselves. So there's two sides of marketing in my business. There's one that I might need to do for myself as a studio, but it's really the artist and showing them how to market themselves, helping them how to market themselves, staying on top of new ways for artists to market themselves. When they started the streaming stuff, which frankly, if I could change it, I would bulldoze it. I would find other ways, because it's screwing the artist in so many ways. But it's also, what it's done is it's put everybody on as we've all become the creators.
Yeah.
Right. We've been handed the keys to the kingdom with very small information on how to do it properly. Right. So before, if you were a band, you had to go only to the big labels, and the big labels, they would take all your money. Right. They'd give you a lot of money to do your videos and promotion, all that, but they would spread out all that money to try and get you fans and stuff like that. But now you can do it all. Right. So what do you have to do as an artist? Now you have to do it all, really. So you have to market yourself, you have to do the album, do the graphics, do your own publicity,
Yeah.
then put yourself out on radio. So it's tough.
Yeah. But it has leveled the playing field, right? Now, you can make it happen as just a regular dude in your house.
That's definitely the plus side. The plus side is that you have become the creator. So you can brand yourself the way that you want to, and if you want it to be done a certain way, and big heads at a big label say, nah, that's not for us, who cares? As long as you are good with you can do it. So you're right. That is definitely the plus side.
Right on. Yeah, it's funny. I moved here from Ottawa 10 years ago, and I had been playing music in Ottawa for 10 years. And as you said, like, it was actually really easy to get gigs. I just went to open mics in Ottawa, and there was a booking agent there who asked us if we wanted to do some shows, and that was it. It was easy. However, when I moved to Moncton, it took me 2 years to get a gig in Moncton. It was very, very difficult. And I mean, I had been playing in a big city. I played to large audiences on Canada Day.
What year was that you moved here?
I moved here in 2013. And so it's been almost 10 years. And but it was quite difficult. And I ended up having to network with some other musicians, and I ended up having one guy who ended up getting me a show. Actually, I'll tell you the story because it's quite funny. There was a guy that he was playing everywhere at the time. He was just everywhere. His name was Aaron Levi Mann, and I don't think he's playing much music nowadays, but he was playing everywhere at that time. He was just the party guy. He just had the guitar out. And one night, I was like, you know what? I'd like to get a gig. So I took my car. I ended up driving right in front of this bar that was no longer around. And I had my guitar in the car, and I thought, maybe an opportunity will present itself. So I went in, and I was just dancing the night away, having a great time. And right at the very end of the show, he breaks a string. And he just keeps on playing, whatever, like nothing happened, and then breaks another string. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at him, and he kind of looked panicky a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, I bet you he doesn't have any more strings. I bet you he's out of strings, right? So I go and I whisper in his ear. I'm like, listen, I got my guitar in the car. You want to borrow for the rest of the show? He's like, yeah. So I went out, grabbed the guitar, brought it back in, gave it to him. He finished out the night, and it was a great night. And afterwards, he gives me a guitar back. He goes, so you want a gig, don't you? Yes, I do. He hooked me up.
The universe helped you help him.
Absolutely. I just had a feeling something was going to happen that night, and that's how I ended up getting in, which is I think that's the key is just try to be helpful, and eventually things will work out, right?
That is, and that's a great segue to what I wanted to add here, is that, if whatever business you're doing, if you can incorporate giving back to the community, to individual people, you have no idea how good that's going to be for your business, because it's gonna inundate you with good feelings. It's going to inundate your business with good vibes. I mean, just going to be able to go to sleep at night soundly because you know that you're helping people, you're making a difference in their lives in a positive way. Priceless.
Totally. So now let's talk about learning from others and learning from the
Sure.
best.
Yep.
What's your approach? I mean, you mentioned that you study all the time, but
Yep.
is there people that you learn from too? Do you have coaches, mentors,
yeah.
anything like that?
Oh yeah. So I definitely am one to think that whoever I meet, I'm learning from them, right? And throughout my life, I've worked with a lot of really great artists and a lot of great producers. And I also do video. In fact, I'm getting back into videography now and editing. And my first studio in Rome, Italy, in 1998 till 2002. So I had that studio with Antonello Pierleoni, who is a great friend of mine. And now he's one of the best videographers and editors in Italy. And you know, sitting side by side doing videos with him for 4 years, I learned, and now I use that and many more things in my practice, right? So for example, in my bands, I had some really great producers work with us, like Gavin Brown, who's done like Celine Dion, Sting. Also had great music directors like Dean Jarvis, who now does Alessia Cara. And these people like taught me mostly what to do right. You know, from everybody you can learn also what not to do on your own skin, right? And so as a client, I'm always um as a client back then, I'm always trying to remember, oh yeah, you know what, I didn't quite like how that felt when he did that. And so I learned from those, and I don't do those with my clients, right? um so, and that can go from big things to small things, right? But I've definitely worked with some great people, and online, I still try to reach out to really great other producers, mixing engineers, and stuff like that, and always sharing notes. And like I said, if you're not having fun learning, I don't know what you're doing here. Life's about knowledge and sharing it, right? So
Yeah, and yeah, you learn through teaching and you learn through being taught as well, right?
oh yeah, like I wasn't doing much education and stuff in Toronto, maybe just teaching Ableton and Pro Tools. But out here, you know, I'm also a vocal coach. I'm a singer, like, primarily. So over the years, I studied with some of the best vocal coaches around the world. I started off with Shania Twain's vocal coach in Toronto, and then did opera and a whole bunch of stuff. So that when out here, I've been doing a lot of vocal training with people, and while still learning it myself. You know, I'm still perfecting the art.
Right on. Well, you know what? It's time for your guest solo. So tell me what's exciting in your business right now and what you're promoting.
So right now, like I said, I'm starting to do videos again. Um, uh, it's no secret that out here there's not a ton of money, right? Big cities probably offer a bit more of that, but out here, when I moved out here, I knew right away, and my wife told me, you know, she's like, you're not going to be able to charge what you were charging in Toronto. And I was like, that's fine with me, actually, because I'm going to be able to spend a bit more time with people. Making music takes time. Some people, most people, like to take their time when they're making their music in a studio. And the only way to do that is to do that over time, right? So let's say, you know, you come in, you do some mixing, you do some recording, and then I give you dailies, and you sit with those dailies for a bit so that you can formulate, no, oh, maybe I want to change that, or maybe I want to change this. And people come back to me 2 weeks later and say, okay, now I know what I want to do. And that's great. And what that does is that also gives them some money relief, right? So that they're paying almost in installments, instead of like, hey, you got to pay $10,000 before we can even start the album. It's like, that's unheard of out here, you know. And if somebody can, good for them. But the reality that I'm seeing is that people can do this much more easily if it's in piecemeal, right?
Yeah.
And so the same thing goes with, now that I'm doing videos. Why am I doing videos? One, because I love doing it, but two, it's because music and video, after COVID, they go hand in hand, and people won't accept it really without it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, during COVID, people saw their people's grandmothers on the toilet playing guitar. And, you know, if they can do it and you're releasing your song, guess what? You're expected to now have a video, right? Something anyways, right? And because I like things that look good, I try to help out the artists with doing their videos at, you know, at an affordable rate, you know? And so, so that's what's hot on my plate right now. The other thing that's hot right now is I'm starting to finally send out, it's been, again, 2 years in the making with COVID, but finally be able to send out stuff to sync agents in the States and in Europe to get the artist's music on film, TV, and commercials. So, you know,
Right
and then
on.
also trying to get the artist next year to do some form of a nice tour in the Atlantic regions and just be organized, help them organize that and stuff like that. That's what's on my docket right now.
Right on. So how do we find out more about this?
You can definitely go on the website, which is studiozproductions11.com.
Awesome. studiozproductions11.com. Thank you so much for rocking out with me today, Mike. This has
Hey,
been a lot
buddy,
of fun.
thank you.
I
You
have a
too.
feeling we're going to talk a lot more.
Oh yeah.
Welcome to Moncton.
Thanks, buddy.
Right on. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.